Awesome.
It's 5 o'clock, and we welcome you to earn $400,000 to $360,000 in scholarships. This session is talking about reusable essays and letters of recommendation. And we welcome those who are attending with us. We have a small group today, but we hope it helps. Want to remind everybody that they can ask questions as we go. Click on the phone icon if you aren't hearing the audio. I've unmuted everyone, so just speak. You can use the chat feature if you want, but it's easier to just talk. So, want to remind that scholarship committees seek to reward something. If you can't clearly see what they may want to reward, it may be a scam or a fishing expedition just trying to get your information and the information of your friends that they will sell to other places. So as you're looking at the scholarships, and Miranda, let me ask you, you've been going through your lists and you've really completed all of the profiles and everything, right?
Yeah.
And are you seeing these ones that you look at them and you go, okay?
Yeah. Just because you're on our site, you can win $700,000 or something like that.
Exactly. And they make it sound so intriguing, don't they?
Uh-huh.
But it's really a scam.
And big bold
to show one of the others, and I haven't done this before, so this is a good one. To show what we're really talking about, this is one that I actually took a screenshot of an actual application description. And in this one, you'll notice that they have two different ways of applying for the scholarship. In this one, they're going to give at most of 4 scholarships in which creativity, mission minus, acts of kindness, and other factors count more highly than academics. 2 $2,500 and 2 $1,000 annual 4-year scholarships may be awarded in order of the greater weight to the lesser weight. And so you can see what they're saying here is creativity, mission minus, or acts of kindness. Now, those are the themes we've been talking about, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And acts of kindness would be which theme?
Under character, right?
It could be under character, but what else is a demonstration of your theme of acts of kindness?
Service.
Service. So here we have the creativity, here we have the acts of kindness, and mission-mindedness would be those things that you are dedicated to. Here is spiritual-mindedness, leadership, academic. All of these are really looking like those power statements, those statements we've prepared, aren't they?
Yeah.
So this shows you how they're used. Then they're saying we're going to give at most 9 scholarships in which academics are the greatest weight. And here's the academic performance, and that's where you would then use those statements. So this is showing exactly where scholarships are doing it. This is one example. Are there any questions about this? Did this help?
Yeah.
Okay, so the idea is to clarify that and help us understand it. Now, we're going to start talking about reusable essays, and you can reuse your scholarship essays over and over. First, what we're suggesting is you review possible essay topics. We're going to show some in a minute. You can also find them as you're going through your list. Like, for example, as you were going through your list, Miranda, how many were you seeing that required an essay?
Almost all of them, really.
Almost all of them. And what we're going to do is we're going to show how you can use 5 or 6 key essays over and over for all of them. So the first step is to review the essay topics. The second step is to read the previous essay winners. A lot of the sites will show and actually have the essays written by this year's winners or previous years.
Cool.
And what's the advantage of reading those?
You know more what they're looking for.
Exactly. And when you say know more, describe the different things you will notice about what they're looking for.
The different focuses of the article, and also just kind of like formatting and organization stuff.
Excellent. Both things, the focus they're looking for and what seems to be the organization and the structure they want. The next step is to now use essays you already wrote. So you look at essays you've already written that can fit into those topics, and we'll show you how to do that. A clear example is there is a common one is describe someone you admire.
Mm-hmm.
How many essays have you written about people you admire in your life?
A few.
So you grab one or two of those, you perfect them, and now you've got one that you can use over and over, right?
Yeah.
The second thing that we recommend is if you're still in high school, like you and Bryce and some of the others who have been listening, is when your English teachers assign you to write a certain topic, and it's kind of a lame one, go to the teacher and say, look, instead of writing on this topic, here's a list of some topics I'm going to use for scholarships. I'm going to be applying for 100 to 150 scholarships. Would you pick one of these topics and let me write it on that instead of the one you've selected?
Yeah.
Now, teachers will do it frequently. I'm not going to say every teacher will let you do that, but a lot of teachers will let you switch the topic, and then you say to them, I am going to be using this for so many that would you really edit it, and I'm going to make all the changes, and would you mind re-editing it and looking at it a second time?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any questions on that? I think we all know what I mean when I say that the English teachers assign us some topics that don't make a lot of sense.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Next, essay lengths will vary, and you modify it by lengthening or cutting and pasting. So, and this changes. Right now, for a while, we used to be average essay length was about 850 to 1,000 words. Then we went to where they were doing them for about 350 words. We're now noticing they're going back to the longer essays.
Mm-hmm.
So what you want to do is pick an essay that is already long. It is easier to cut rather than to add.
Mm-hmm.
And so look at an essay that's sitting around 1,000 to 1,500 words. You perfect it. And then, depending on how many words they want you to use, you will cut and paste sections out of it or quotes out of it. Any questions on that?
Mm-mm.
Okay. And by the way, as you have questions, feel free to ask them. Next, you're going to customize the opening and closing paragraphs to that scholarship sponsor. And when I say customize, I'm not talking the whole paragraph. I'm talking you will insert the name of the scholarship or the exact phrasing that they are asking for into those opening and closing paragraphs, and that'll take you about how long to modify 4 to 5 sentences?
Like less than 5 minutes.
Less than 5 minutes. So now what you've got are these 5 to 6 reusable essays. You're going to use them, modifying them so that they're definitely talking to that one audience using their terms. And then you will save the modified essay as the name of the scholarship essay.pdf.
Okay.
So you're keeping it in Word as the reusable, you're modifying it, then you're saving it so that you do have each essay you've submitted separately.
Mm-hmm. So
Any questions? Yeah.
When you said keeping it in Word, what about now Google Docs and stuff that's coming
Oh,
up?
Google Docs will work. Part of the problem with Google Docs is sometimes they don't have as many edit features for you. Sometimes it gets difficult. You just have to remember that if you're doing it in Google Doc, save it to a PDF, because you're not, most of the essay committees, when you share with them the essay, they don't like that. They like you to upload it to their site.
Okay.
But yes, you can use Google Docs. You can use any form that you're writing it in. Just remember to keep it in the editable form as your master, but then a PDF form when you actually make it. Good question. Any others?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, so this is how we reuse the scholarship essays. Those are the steps. Now we're going to talk about possible scholarship essays. And once again, what we find is there are some that stay the same, and then about every 3 to 5 years, there's a whole bunch, that we see major changes on. So I'm going to start with some of the easier ones that are first. There is always several who are asking for you to describe someone you admire and why.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of those.
You see those, and obviously you've written several of those, so you're good. Another topic that you see is how your education will affect your career or life. How many of us have grown or have written a what do you want to do when you grow up?
Yeah.
This is the one you modify for that, and you include sections on how your education you see that leading you to, or basically what you have done to prepare for this career, including education.
Okay.
So sometimes what I find with these is, yes, you want to include your education, but you also want to include some of those extracurricular themes, and that's where you'll throw in some of your statements that you've prepared. Another common topic is what you have done to build leadership, what you have done to improve your academics, what you have done, etc. And this is where you take your essay and you're using almost all of your statements, but you're dividing it into 3 sections. We're going to talk about that when we talk about the outline. So when you have the one that says what you have done to qualify for this school, what you have done to qualify for this scholarship, what you have done to prepare for life, that's where you throw in your statements. Okay, next. Right now, and this has been common for the last 15, 20 years, so I don't think this one's going to change, but there are environmental, green, or other conservation topics. You want to have at least one of your essays that is talking about protecting the ecology. Some, however, you may need to really modify in depth, because we're now seeing some of them that are asking, how does green construction help this society? How does, not general recycling, but how does specifics? And so on the environmental ones, you may need to customize some of those or write separate ones. If you do, save all of them so you can reuse them. Okay? Another topic that is really big right now is inclusion versus exclusion in society. We're seeing a lot of them who are talking about diversity, who are talking about, and this includes, by the way, the anti-bullying comments. There will be anti-bullying things out there. There will be things about the LGBT community, race issues, gender issues, age issues. So you're going to want to have at least one essay that talks about inclusion. And once again, I'm just going to ask, how many times have you had to write an essay on inclusion in the last 2 or 3 years in school?
A couple.
Yeah.
I've written many, but some.
See, once again, most of the students will already have one of these that they've written, because the scholarships are mirroring what society is interested in. For example, my guess is we're going to start seeing in this inclusion, we're going to see some essay requests that are talking about sexual harassment as part of this Me Too and all the other movements that are happening. And then, as we talked about, there is always the ubiquitous, what do you plan to do when you grow up? These are some of the major topics that you'll see that you can do currently. Some of the ones that we've seen in the past have dealt with making society a better place. That kind of fits into that inclusion thing. or what you have done to make society. Had one young lady, for example, the topic was, what have you done in the last 6 months to make the world a better place?
Mm-hmm.
And she went to one of her power statements where she was going to an Alzheimer's unit and reading to the people, and turned that into a 355-word essay and got $3,500, which is a pretty good per word payment. Any other topics that you've seen that I don't have up here?
I think that covers all of them.
Okay. If you do, by the way, I'm going to ask anyone who's listening to this, either live or on the recordings, if you do see topics, would you please email them to my email? I'll show you at the end, so that we can add that and share it with others. Next part I wanted to go into is, once again, this is from an actual scholarship application, and they're saying you have to submit a list of your extracurricular activities. We're not looking for the number of activities, but the variety, balance, depth, and overall significance. What would you use to answer that question?
Clubs and sports?
Exactly. Any one of your themes would fit there, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So you just, in this one, you would submit a list of your statements, which you've already prepared. Copy and paste just made this simple, didn't it?
Yeah. So their lists are just like more explanations, not just like, I played soccer,
Well, you remember, your statement goes beyond I played soccer. Read me one of your statements.
I don't have them pulled up right now.
Okay. I'm going to go with one that I remember. Were you the captain? Have I got this right?
Yeah.
So you would list as the captain of my high school soccer team, and then you would put that one power statement in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mackenzie would put hers, that she was a member of a band that took 3rd place at the BYU Invitational Band Contest.
Yeah.
You would put in your grade point average and academic scores.
Okay.
Okay, then read this next one. And has Bryce joined us yet?
He'll be here in a minute.
Okay, so if you'll read this one paragraph, number 2, then we'll read the notes underneath, because that defines, now we're moving from essays to letters of recommendation.
Okay. Submit at most 3 reference letters with at most 2 pages, single space, 12-point type, maybe less, such as double space, etc. From parents who better know homeschool students, pastors, teachers in programs you've been involved in, Awana, Boy Scouts, 4-H, FFA, YFC, and then that confirm your involvement in the activities that you've listed, and that, to the extent possible, attest to your unique contribution in these areas. These letters should further attest to your creativeness, mission-mindedness, or acts of kindness.
Okay, what are the parts that really stuck out to you as you were reading that?
That they have to confirm your involvement.
Mm-hmm.
And then just kind of talking about your contribution to it.
Exactly. I love the comment where it says that, to the extent possible, attest to your unique contributions. Does that sound like anything we've already talked about?
Our statements.
Your statements. Now, the note. These letters ought not to be mere character reference letters. They should attest to specific contributions you have made, specific activities you have engaged in, specific achievements that have benefited or show some promise in the future benefiting the kingdom, the world, etc. So what we're looking at is not a general letter. We're looking for a very specific kind of letter.
Mm-hmm.
And the specifics they're asking for are the ideal use of your statements. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So let's now talk about the tips for reusable letters.
Real quick, can you go back to that slide?
Yes.
What does it mean by from parents who better know homeschool students?
For example, this one scholarship I took this from has a high number of people who are being homeschooled.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, parent is also teacher.
Okay. It's just specific to that scholarship.
For this particular scholarship. Now, once again, getting a letter from your parent, they're not asking for it that often, but the key to this was homeschool students.
Okay.
Okay? Good question, by the way. Okay, first tip for these reusable letters is you're going to select 5 people to provide a letter of recommendation, and I have an exercise we're going to do in a minute that'll make that simple. The second step is you offer to draft the letter for them to finalize and sign. In the past, we used to say, would you draft the letter? Today, it is much easier, and you'll find most people would prefer you saying, if I draft it, would you then finalize it, make it comfortable for you, and sign it?
Okay.
Okay? And we're going to talk about the outline for the letter is an introduction. The introduction has basically 3 sentences. Please accept my recommendation of so-and-so for the such-and-such scholarship or for your scholarship. It is an honor to recommend them because I have known them for these reasons, and they will represent your organization well. That's 1 paragraph. Then the body of the letter, you're putting 4 to 5 bulleted statements that are appropriate to what they're looking for in their scholarship. If they want leadership, you're going to put leadership scholarships, statements. If they want academics, you're going to put academic statements. If they're looking for kindness to others, you're going to put service. And these bullets are going to be no more than 1 to 2 lines per bullet.
Okay.
The closing paragraph restates, once again, it is an honor to recognize Bryce for your scholarship. He will represent your organization well. If you need to contact me, call or email this number.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions on the outline?
No.
No.
One big thing I want to point out is you have to remember that while you're following this basic format, you've got to make it look different each time. You don't want to use the same phrase, please accept my recommendation of so-and-so for your scholarship, because when they're looking at 5 letters and all the letters sound like they are the same, what's that do to the credibility of the letter?
Lowers it.
So that's why you want to change it yourself when you do the draft, and then you want to tell the person, please modify it and make it your own in your own words.
What are some examples of that rather than...
Beg your pardon?
What are some examples of that, changing from please?
So, for example, on one you could say, please accept my recommendation for so-and-so for your scholarship. Another one can say, Miranda has asked me to prepare a letter of recommendation for your scholarship. Another one can then say, I understand that Bryce is submitting for your scholarship. I would like to submit my recommendation.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Next step is you ask if they are willing to provide it on their letterhead. And you ask, but don't get upset. A lot of companies now have rules that are prohibiting people from putting it on their letterhead. And that seems to be an increasing problem that is happening. But if you can get it, you get it. For example, I had one lady I was working with. She was a freshman in college when she started this. And when she was 12 years old, the head of the largest women's organization in the world asked all the women in the local chapters to prepare quilts to send to the refugees at Kosovo. And this 12-year-old girl made 25 baby quilts, and she had a picture of herself taken with the quilts that she donated to Kosovo. Well, 6 years later, she's doing this, and she thought, well, I'll give it a try, and she sent a picture of herself with it and a draft letter to the general president, the international president of that organization, and got a letter back from her thanking her for the 25 quilts she had done for the refugees in Kosovo on that letterhead of the international president. What kind of clout do you think that gives to your application? And so once again, whether it's the head of a worldwide organization or a local one, when their letter is stating things that you're already stating in your application, your credibility goes way up. Next, when you're done, you create a PDF to upload to the various applications that you're going to apply for. Now, with letters of recommendation, you're going to want them to be fairly current. So, this is the beautiful thing, you're still doing things. See, for example, Bryce, you were at soccer practice, right?
Right.
You're still playing soccer. You're still hopefully making it to regional and state championships, right?
Yes.
And so you get a letter this year, and then next year, if you're still playing, you get a letter again. Can be the same person, it could be the same coach or whoever, but you have a letter that is current.
Okay.
And you never delete any of the old ones. You keep them because they can help establish that theme again. Like this one girl that I was telling you about who had done the quilts at 25, she had other letters, and she used those letters from age 12 to age 18 as a theme showing this was not a one-trick pony. Okay, now that you've got the tips, let's take a look at who to select. And I'm going to do this real easy and get ready to write down 5 names. Okay, the first name is look at your school, whether it's junior high, high school, or if you're taking concurrent enrollment, college classes. Think of a teacher, a coach, a principal, a guidance counselor, and write down the name real quick of the people that you would ask from school.
Do you want 5 people just from school?
Nope, just one.
Okay.
Good question. Glad you asked it. We're looking for one person in this category. If you have 2, 2 will work, but no, we're not asking 5. And I don't think I need to say this, but you definitely don't want to make it from someone you have a bad relationship with. Like, I got to know the vice principal of my junior high school really, really well. It would not be good for me to ask him for a letter of recommendation. Okay, have we got one here?
Yes.
Okay, next you're going to look at work. And work can be things you got paid for, things that you did. They can be mowing lawns. They can be doing windows. And look at either a manager or a peer or a client or a vendor. Someone from work that you think could write you a nice letter. Now, obviously, if you haven't worked, this is one you won't do. If for all of our non-traditional students who are coming back, this works really well, you may want to get more than one. And many times you can use letters of recommendation that you're getting for jobs anyway. Are we taking enough time on this one?
Yep.
Okay, next you're going to look at civic organizations. These are places you gave donations to, like the lady with the quilt. These are places you've gone to do service for or leadership in. For example, I think one of you talked about you did a service project where you were cleaning up a nature greenbelt area, right?
Not me.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Okay, I thought must have been one of the others. Well, okay, Mackenzie had mentioned that she had gone to a local food bank for 8 years during the Thanksgiving week. She'd go to the manager of that food bank and ask them for one.
Okay.
So think of some place you have given service and go back to them. For example, one young man who had done, I keep referring to it because so many people do it, he had painted the addresses on the curbs for the first responders, and he got a letter from the fire chief.
Cool.
Okay, next, go to your church, your pastors, your youth advisors, influential members of your congregation, but look at someone in your church that you have been close to, and write that name down. And then the fifth one is ask someone else to edit it without the rules of governing. So if you're using this method, you're going to wind up with about 5 or 6 letters of recommendation you can use. You ask the person to edit it, but you remind them that when they edit it, don't change the rules that are involved. Yes?
Sorry, going back to letterhead, remember, if they don't have a letterhead, is it just, okay, submit it like that?
Yes, if there is no letterhead, then go ahead and just submit it on as a plain PDF.
Just makes it slightly less?
If they can't use letterhead, let me say this. Make sure that in the signature line and in the signature line, it is clearly stating what their position was. So you may even use 3 or 4 lines on the signature line. For example, it may say, Myla Dutton, Executive Director, Utah County Community Action Program, and the address and phone number or website.
Okay.
If you can't get it on letterhead, then make up for it with the signature line. Another place you can make up for it in some of the more formal letterhead or letter formats, you will put a block of their contact information at the very top, then the date, then you'll put the contact information for the organization. Since you're reusing these, you're not going to put every scholarship's name. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you could put Community Action Services and Food Bank, the address, the city, the website and phone number, and then at the bottom you then sign Myla Dutton, Executive Director, Community Services Action and Food Bank of Utah County or Los Angeles County.
Mm-hmm.
Good question. Any other questions on that?
No.
Okay, this is an easy, short one. I want to remind you that in the key to this is in the body of your email, of your letter, you're putting 2 or 3 things that you specifically did that they would remember. It may be only one thing because you only did one thing for that civic organization, or there may be 3 or 4 on the one from the school.
Okay.
And one last thing that I have to say, remember that you are building relationships now. that you are going to want to maybe ask for help from later. So always be gentle and kind to people and treat them with respect. I was a scoutmaster for several years. I had several scouts ask me for letters of recommendation, and I would ask them to draft them and put in what they remembered they contributed to the troop. I had one who asked me, and the only thing that I could remember about that scout is that he purposefully vomited in my brand new van 2 days after I got it. I did not write him a letter of recommendation.
Yeah, I can see why.
In closing, I want to remind you I will be willing to review your statements if you wish to review your letters. I'm not an English editor, so I'm not really good on the essays. If you do want me to, my email is there, larry@larrystevensongroup.com. Feel free to email me at that if you have questions, if you want me to review your essays, your letters, your statements. And this concludes our series. Feel free to review the recording of this webinar on my Facebook and LinkedIn profiles. All of them are also at my YouTube channel, and I look forward to hearing about your success. Any last comments that you have? You two have been with me this whole time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. And please, send me when you start getting the money.
Okay.
Do the 100 hours. When you get the first 4,000, send me that. When you get the 10,000, let me know about that. When you get the 100,000, let me know.
Okay.
Okay?
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.